I first met Jimmy Santiago Baca through writing. I was teaching along with Dick Shelton a poetry workshop in the Florence prison. And Jimmy at the time was trying to get an education, and they wouldn't let him, so he refused to work. He went on strike, and he spent 2 years in the hole, basically. I mean, he was put away for it. And so basically, most of the time he was in Florence, he was on strike against the system. And so through the letters, Jimmy and I got to know each other, and I think these two poems will demonstrate why I think it's so big in terms of survive and thrive, and why I support the film A Place to Stand, and hope other people will too. A Place to Stand is a demonstration of survive and thrive. And Jimmy's coming to our conference in the fall, in October, and he's going to be a big part of that. He's going to open the whole thing up. So the first poem, I'm going to read a poem first by Jimmy. I'm going to just go one, explain it, set them both up. This is a poem I saw in the letters, being born, more or less, as Jimmy was there in Florence. And I think it talks about survive and thrive in a way that we all need to hear. And then I'm reading something that I've never read before, and haven't shared before except with Jimmy. It's a letter I wrote him back in the 70s. I found the old notes. Most of those were thrown away and I lost them. I have one left that I was able to sort of reconstruct. And this is one of the letters we exchanged. We got to know each other very well through our letters. He would write me letters and I would write him letters, and we'd write poems to each other, and we developed our relationship that way. And then when we met outside of the prison walls, we were just brothers, that's all. You know, it was easy. So, who understands me but me? They turn the water off, so I live without water. They build walls higher, so I live without treetops. They paint the windows black, so I live without sunshine. They lock my cage, so I live without going anywhere. They take each last tear I have. I live without tears. They take my heart and rip it open. I live without heart. They take my life and crush it, so I live without a future. They say I'm beastly and fiendish, so I have no friends. They stop up each hope, so I have no passage out of hell. They give me pain, so I live with pain. They give me hate, so I live with hate. They have changed me, and I am not the same man. They give me no shower, so I live with my smell. They separate me from my brothers, so I live without brothers. Who understands me when I say, this is beautiful? Who understands me when I say, I have found other freedoms? I cannot fly or make something appear in my hand. I cannot make the heavens open or the earth tremble. I can live with myself, and I'm amazed at myself, my love, my beauty. I'm taken by my failures, astounded by my fears. I am stubborn and childish in the midst of this wreckage of life they incurred. I practice being myself. And I have found parts of myself never dreamed of by me. They were goaded out from under the rocks of my heart when the walls were built higher, when the water was turned off and the windows painted black. I followed these signs like an old tracker that followed the tracks deep into myself, following the blood-spotted path deeper into dangerous regions, and found so many parts of myself who taught me water is not everything, and gave me new eyes to see through walls. And when they spoke, sunlight came out of their mouths. And I was laughing at me with them. We laughed like children and made pacts to always be loyal. Who understands me when I say this is beautiful? Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, so this is the letter, one of the letters that I sent Jimmy. Dear Jimmy, I opened your last letter with high anticipation. It seems to me you are finding something within the weaving of your stories as letters thrown over prison walls. What I see happening is the personal connection in letter writing is blending with storytelling until there is an ocean wave of empathy, insight, and emotions. You're a poet of a particular kind. First, you can't help yourself. Write or die. Second, you have a sense of words that is a sense. You smell them, touch them, hear them, see them, and all the implications of their incredible relations. Poetry is distinguished from prose by lines and a love of words, but sometimes someone like you loves words so much that the prose sentences have to be lines of poetry. A reader is in a poem and doesn't even notice it, wrapped in the whole of the story in the steaming heat and icy stare of a reality being born. The poetry workshop, the one we want you in, goes on with poets and words and talks and books and the wrangling and retching of heart. Big John writes as if he were attacking the world with Coke bottles. And of all the poets he is less likely poet of the group. Starting with poems about light bulbs and cadavers and ending with poems about how much he misses his mother, he is a killer with sentiment as large as his wishes for death and for the deaths of others. I'm reminded of how extremes meet in Florence and in poetry. The beauty of the coffee can as a drinking cup, the blood on the steps, a small blue flower in the yard, the savage sun that offers life and takes it from the refugees on the desert, the guards asking why I'm teaching a poultry workshop, the knifings in the educational unit. I was in a lockdown with everyone last week, locked in the classroom. I walked out into the yard and to the 12-foot high gate and asked for the key from the guard to be passed down to me on a rope. He said, "No, we haven't found the weapon yet." The poets within the workshop were behind me, grinning. I've never felt safer, a gang of killer poets ready to defend me from the knives and sharpened plastic spoons. Florence smells of death and piss and shit and tobacco and coffee and fear. Duende. It means magic or printer's devil or something like that, but for Lorca it meant facing death in the ring with the bull, the moment just before the end of the bull or the man. The magic in that is thick with blood, and the whole of the day in Florence is like a hot Spanish afternoon arena. Duende. There's a moment in your writing, that could translate into that sense of things, that space between life and death, where they have a relationship, enemies, lovers, sexual partners, thieves together, waiters on eternity. Yes, there is a quality in your writing and something else. When I was 12, I used to wander out to the sand hills about 10 miles from my house. The sand hills are a sea of sand and grass and cottonwood trees and coyotes, and threaten young white boys with the knowledge that they are alone in the wilderness belongs to an ancient people who were driven out by his relatives something short of 100 or so years ago. I was armed with a .22 rifle. There's a magic there too. It seems like freedom, of course, because there are no bars in place, but once embedded in the hills, there seems to be an endless time of waiting and walking home is lost, hot, and because of exhaustion, impossible. You want to eat something or drink something or yell in the deep cuts from fast water that disappears as if on a desert during the most drenching rain. As I was there, in that mood, young and armed, I went towards a grove of trees to rest, and I saw in a tall cottonwood tree a dark shape. My hair stood on end, and without thinking, of course, 12 years old, think in different shapes, I shot it. The poem that follows puts me back there. When I was 12, I fought an owl who seemed small at first but grew larger than I. Strong, cold in the afternoon light, all truth and feathers, death and curses, he perched above me in the trees cut into the sky. I felt his strength like a fever and shot him. He floundered, fluttered, fell, banged against cottonwood to the earth, suddenly a god. And I suddenly awake. It seemed for the first time cursing everything as I was cursed. He would take an eternity to die, and I beat him, life from him, with clubs and horror and bullets, and each time I killed him, he grew stronger, until after hours of blood and blindness, he rose up, spanned the sky, frothed, and escaped me. Death would never be the same. Jimmy, I know the Apache, believed the owl was dead. My friend, Your fire is in your words, and there is no reason to put the fire out. Write yourself out of what you can. I do wish I could pluck you from your cell and plant you somewhere else, but I know you wish that more than I do. Yours in the way of the sun, Rex. Thank you. Let's support A Place to Stand, everybody. Thanks.